Good afternoon.
Hey, good afternoon. Yeah.
We good?
Good.
All right. We just completed practice number 5 for Houston. We got 3 good days in last week, and then Sunday and today. So off to a good start there. Obviously, disappointing news that we got early last week about Gary's shoulder. They did an X-ray right after the game and had good news there that he didn't have a broken collarbone or anything. But whenever they did the MRI, it did show some things that they feel like they need to go clean up in surgery. So he'll be out for the remainder of the season, and really just feel for him. He really was settling in and playing really good ball the last 2 games. And so disappointed for him, number one, and then obviously, for our team. But Gary's a tough guy, mentally and physically a tough guy, and even though this is a setback for him, I've got full confidence that he'll come back and be stronger next year. For our team, it's just another injury to add to the list. A long list. Was hoping that maybe through the first 6 games we would kind of get that behind us, but it looks like it's continuing to add there. But at the end of the day, we can't feel sorry for ourselves. We can't use these as excuses or whatever. That's not going to get anything accomplished. The only path is to have the next man up mindset and go back to work. And going back and watching the tape, I thought there were some things that Trey Marsh did a good job of. He had 2 nice touchdown passes, and then he had some plays obviously that he'll need to improve and he'll work on and clean up the turnover there. But Trey's been here for 3 years, and he's gotten a lot of work in practice as a backup and had a few experiences in games. But I'm excited to be able to see him go out and play this week versus Houston. And then behind Trey, we really have 3 guys that'll be kind of working and getting ready. The first will be Byron Brown. Byron's a true freshman that we're very high on, and we believe he has a big future. A very smart young man. I think he had over a 4.0 in high school, and I believe he's making straight A's here. He's mature for his age, for being a young guy. He's got really good maturity to him. Everything's very important to him. He picks up things very quickly, and I think you don't ever like to be in this situation, losing your starter. But maybe one silver lining for us is it happened going into a bye week where we have 2 weeks to really get Trey and Byron ready. Behind Byron is Gunnar Smith, another freshman that we signed, and Gunnar's really improved. He's been working with the scout team really all fall and doing a good job for them down there. And obviously with this, we've moved him up to the varsity. And then also one other quarterback I wanted to mention, Ryan Boldick is a walk-on quarterback for us that came in from Cardinal Mooney, and another very smart player, and has done a really good job for us. He knows what we're doing. And so those will really be the 3 guys there behind Trey that will be giving reps and getting ready for this week and for the remainder of the season. Houston, again, a very talented team, very explosive on offense. Their quarterback, like we talked about, was kind of the year of the quarterback, the year of the injuries and the year of the quarterback. But Clayton Toon is an outstanding player and just a winner, and does a lot of great things for their offense. And then defensively, reminds me of Cincinnati. When you watch the video, they have to be one of the top teams in the country in sacks, just create a lot of havoc. They've got 9 and 10 defensive linemen that all are disruptive and all really, really good players, and that's where it starts for them up front. So we're going to have to be really smart with what we, game plan wise and what we ask our guys to do, because a lot of regular drop back, everybody's had trouble blocking those guys this year. So it'll be another big challenge and new opportunity for us. And like I told our team, we've got 5 games left, and the first 7 games haven't gone the way that maybe we envisioned and the way that we wanted, and there's a lot of reasons for that. We have a hand in some of that too. We could have coached better, and we could have played better. And then obviously, you got to take into consideration some of the other stuff that's happened as well. But at the end of the day, those first 7 games are part of our story for this season, but it doesn't have to be the story of our season. If we go and finish the right way, and how we finish these last 5 games starting this week against a good Houston team will really, in my opinion, kind of be the story of the season. And so we have opportunity, and you know, as far as what I watch from the guys and from our staff, nobody's happy. Obviously everybody's frustrated, but everybody shows up, everybody goes to work, and has had the right attitude. And that's really the biggest thing that I'm looking for, is making sure that we've got guys that are continuing to push and striving to get better. And as long as we do that, I believe that we have an opportunity for success ahead of us. So that's really what we're focused on. With that, I'll open up for any questions.
Jeff, you mentioned going into the off week, you know, evaluating your team and what you're asking your guys to do. Kind of what did you come up with just that as you looked at it, and how you might change or shift moving forward?
Can I tell you at the end of the season?
Sure.
I'm not trying to be smart. I'm just, you know, I think it's always important during your bye week, regardless of success or lack of success. You know, you always go and do a self-scout, where you take a kind of defensive look at your offense, an offensive look at your defense, and then, you know, share some of those things. And you're looking at tendencies, you're looking at, you know, what did we think we would do well? How did we do in that? And what gave us problems, and how do we correct that? And so I guess what I would confirm is, yes, we took a lot of time to do that, and we did find some things, but I don't think it's in our advantage to kind of share overall what that is. I think from a 10,000 foot view, you know, at the end of the day, what we've told our guys is the game is about execution. It's not about plays, right? We can draw up plays and talk about how this could work and how this happens and all that. At the end of the day, it's how well you execute. So as a coach, you know, are we coaching and teaching the things that our guys can execute well in practice and can carry over to the game? And then for the players is, am I executing and doing what I need to do with my job? And then personnel wise, obviously with the change at quarterback, there'll be, you know, some subtle changes. I'm not sure that big picture wise people would see major changes, but there'll be some subtle changes because, you know, each of those guys, Gary is different than Trey, and Trey's different, you know, than Byram and some of those other guys. So, you know, you have to kind of balance that in as well with what you have. And then, you know, defensively, again, it's kind of a time to go back and look at what you've done well and what you need to improve on. And a lot of it's not real exciting stuff to talk about. It's the basics. It's tackling, right? It's being playing with lower pads up front. It's having better leverage and understanding, you know, angles and all of these kind of things. And so that's another thing that we spent a lot of time on, a little extra time for individual fundamental work. Did probably 25 minutes a day, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday on fundamentals. We're typically in the season, because of the game planning and all that, you're more about 10 minutes in true indie work. So part of it's kind of going back, focusing on that. And then, you know, for us, you know, there'll be some things, I'm not sure that it'd be something that somebody on the outside would be able to notice, but there's definitely things within our scheme that we can do better and put our guys in a better situation. And that's kind of part of our job as a coach. You never kind of just start out and then you just go on autopilot and play the whole season out. Every week you've got to, you know, adjust to the good and the bad that comes.
For Travis, this is going to be his longest period of being able to prep, you know, with the bye week.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Cincinnati start, not sure how much he got. East
Right.
Carolina was a short week, got thrown into Temple last year, and thrown into Tulane this year. Just how beneficial is it going to be for him to have that, you know, not just that full week, but an extra week on top of that going into Houston?
Yeah, I think it's helpful. Again, I said earlier, it's never an ideal situation when you lose your starter, but if it was going to happen before a bye week, to give you 2 weeks for both, you know, the quarterbacks, Trey and even Byram, because you only rep 2 guys every day as far as in your team periods and all that. So, you know, for the whole fall, it's been, you know, Gary and Trey, and Byram's been watching, and then Byram would throw an Indy to the wideouts and all that. But as far as real plays out there, you know, Byram hasn't got many. Trey has, but it's all been with the twos. So now for Trey to get all the work with the ones, for Byram now to start getting live reps with the second team and all that for 2 weeks before you go play, that's an advantage for them, and then it's an advantage for us as coaches, knowing that, you know, the guys that are gonna be playing, and maybe putting together a plan for those guys to be successful in using their strengths.
You get the idea that this team thinks it's a snake bit, or that it's kind of waiting for what's gonna happen next, or
Yeah.
you think they've been able to get that out of their mind?
Yeah, I don't know, I really haven't thought about that. I would just say, whenever I see a new injury, you know, I feel bad for the young man, but it just, okay, add it to the list, you know, I mean, it is what it is, and you just kinda get in the mode that, you know, at the end of the day, you have to go back and just say, all you can do as a coach and a player is control what you can control, right? And obviously there's emotions and disappointment, we all have that, but to give ourselves the best chance to have success, you gotta move past that as quick as you can and say, I mean, I can sit up there in my office and look at where we were at the beginning of the season and our depth chart and feel really good and where we are, and, you know, kinda have the woe is me, but that's gonna be 15 minutes that I'm not game planning for Houston, which is really what's gonna give us a chance to be able to go out and have success. So I think, while you're in the middle of it, you know, you just have to process it and move on to the next. But does it feel like that? Absolutely, it does. And, you know, the frustrating part about it is it's all been different injuries and different situations. You know, like I've said before, if we had, you know, 6 of one injury and 8 of another injury, you would really kind of look at what you're doing. But it's been a lot of different things that have happened, and then you go back and watch the plays. I mean, Gary was going to try to get a first down and doing what he does. He's an aggressive runner, and, you know, he just unfortunately got hit kind of at the wrong angle right there. But does it feel like that? Yes. Is our players walking around with their heads down because of that? No. I mean, they kind of understand what we said. We got to control what we can control. Next man up. This is another opportunity for the next guy to go in. And like I've told the guys, that's why we have 85 guys on scholarship. You only play 11 guys every play, but you have 85 guys on scholarship. Well, the reason is for injuries and things like this that happen. And, you know what, so really just trying to focus on, you know, what we can control, and we don't, you know, we do control. I'm careful in what we're doing. I think the other thing probably that's tough is how you practice, right? When you have so many injuries, you know, you as a coach, you can't just say, well, we're just gonna go live for 2 hours and just whoever's left standing, let's go play. And you gotta have some common sense too. But at the same time, you gotta get some good on good work. So you're just really kind of picking and choosing those reps, where sometimes if you have more of your full roster, you can be a little bit more aggressive, you know, on Tuesdays and Wednesdays in your practice. But so as far as that part, I'm trying to manage that as best as I can. But as far as, you know, the other piece, you know, we're moving forward.
Jeff, what kind of sticks with you about the recruiting process with Trey Marsh? I think he committed just after your first full recruiting weekend.
Yeah, he was committed. I want to say, could be wrong. I want to say he was committed to Utah.
Yeah.
Early on, and then you know, whenever I got the job and I was here for maybe 10 days, and then I went back to Clemson. And when I wasn't game planning or at practice, you know, I was on the phone and recruiting, and obviously quarterback's a big thing. I remember that, you know, he won a lot of games there at his school and came from a really good program. I knew he had good arm strength. I knew he was a big bodied guy. Sometimes, you know, you're looking for some guys that, you know, bigger guys, big stature in the pocket and all that kind of stuff. And then I met him, and I thought he had a good, you know, personality and all that to him. And it just kind of clicked. And so I think that part's really good. You know, the other thing I'd say about Trey too is, I mean, this world we're in, man, it just operates so fast, right? This environment in college football and the portal and all these things. And so, you know, last year in December, you know, Trey, you know, knowing that we had a starter coming back who Trey competed with, you know, Trey decided to get in the portal, kind of see, you know, what he could do. And after being in there for a couple of weeks, he called me back and started talking through a few things. And really, we had 2 freshmen coming in, but we didn't have anybody other than our returning starter at that point coming back. And so, I'm glad that I agreed to let him come back, right? Because you didn't really know all the other things that transpire. That's one thing that, people could miss, that if he would have done kind of the normal thing and just kind of moved on, then, we could have been in a situation right now, where we have 1 fewer quarterback with experience that has played and been in that meeting room for 3 years. So I do appreciate, that part. And, I'm excited. I know, he's had some good plays and some bad plays when he's been in there, but that's all kind of part of your journey as a young player. And it is difficult, going into a game and not knowing, if you're gonna play or not. You gotta kind of prepare for that. But now having 2 weeks to kind of get ready and know that this is gonna be his game, I'm excited to see him go lead our offense.
Where have you seen the most growth out of him?
I'll say just overall maturity. I think he was, just kind of young and trying to figure it out when he first got here. Sometimes as a young player, you don't know what you don't know, right? If you know what you don't know and you go learn it, but sometimes you think you know a little bit more, and then it kind of, gets a little fuzzy for you. And he's put in some time in the meeting room with Coach Trickett and learning the offense. And I've just seen this year, and my challenge to him whenever he came back was, I don't want you coming back just to come hang out, because at that time, he knew he was probably going to be the backup again. I don't want you just to come by time. If you're coming back, I want you to be serious about it and come back and go to work. And I feel like he has. And he's done that, and I've just seen growth in his overall maturity and knowledge of what we're doing and confidence in what we're doing. And now, hopefully that'll transpire over to the game field.
Jeff, from what you had to say about Byram, he seems like a real mature young man. And
Yeah.
if you could talk about, you said he hasn't had many meaningful reps out there on the practice field, but he has now.
Yeah.
So if you see that maturity coming through in his game as well.
Byram has, sometimes there's a lot of good things with young guys too, just kind of a youthful energy. And Byram brings that. Byram's like your all-American young man. I won't call him a kid, even though he just turned 18, I think. He's just kind of like big, bright smile. I think when we recruited him, he had big braces, just kind of came in, just a big smile, really just kind of a very young-looking young man, but just highly intelligent, just a really great energy about him. He carries that with him, and the players really like him and kind of feed off of his energy, and it's been fun. Like I said, the hardest thing to do is not be the backup quarterback. The hardest thing is to be the third quarterback, because you can't go to scout team and get reps because you have to be watching everything with the varsity, but you can't get reps with the varsity, so you're having to stand and watch. So that's where it really matters. If you're mature, if you're focused on getting mental reps and getting better with every rep that goes on, or if you're young and don't know, you're just kind of wandering around and watching. And Byram is very intentional. And I mean, honestly, this being the first time getting reps as a second team guy, with the team. And again, in fall camp, he was able to go out there in some scrimmages whenever we'd go with our threes. But really from fall camp until now, you really just you only have time very similar to the NFL to rep 2 guys. And so watching him go out, I mean, you can tell watching him practice this week that he's kept up with the installs and he knows our offense. There's not a lot of mistakes or anything like that from motions, getting guys lined up, making the calls and all that kind of stuff. So we're excited about Byram. I think there could be an opportunity for Byram to play at some point. I think one thing that I'm looking at as well is Byram hadn't played in any games, and he could play in up to 4 games depending on how the season goes and how Trey does and what the game situations are. He could play in up to 4 games without using a redshirt year, and we think Byram has a really big future here. So it would definitely be my goal, if at all possible, not to use one of his years for 1 extra game. And so all that usually works itself out. Usually you don't find yourself in that situation, but Byram, I definitely see Byram at some point, whether it's this Saturday or one of the next 4 games. I see him getting an opportunity to go in and play, because he also adds a different element, than Trey in some other regards as well.
Is it the right way to describe Trey Marsh as a guy that just has all the physical skills in the world, looks tremendous on the practice field? Him taking it to the next level is a matter of him knowing how to use those skills and where to go with the ball.
Yeah, I think, y'all probably felt, and maybe just hearing me talk and other coaches talk, Trey has a very strong arm, probably the strongest arm since I've been here of any of the quarterbacks that we've had. I mean, he's got a very big arm, and in practice, he's done a really good job. I think just, he hasn't had a ton of opportunity. If you go back and kind of chart his opportunities, it's been kind of like what happened against Tulane, right? The guy goes down in the middle of the game, you go out there, and then he got some opportunities 2 years ago as a true freshman and just kind of got thrown in the fire. So, this will be, his biggest stretch and opportunity he's had since he's been here. And usually it does translate from the practice field to the game field. But, I think our guys are, obviously our guys understand losing Gary is a big deal, and don't minimize that. But we're glad that we have someone with the experience and knowledge that's been around and arm strength and all that stuff of Trey to be able to go in and help us here this week.
Houston
Coaches are always telling players to be ready to play.
Yeah.
Do you think all these injuries has improved the focus on some of these guys? Because they're seeing, hey, I really might be.
I think focus and overall energy among those guys. I don't want to say morale, because nobody's happy with the record that we have. But I would say overall energy, if y'all were able to come out and watch practice, just seeing how many guys were running around full speed and communicating and playing, I think it's because a lot more of your roster is involved because of the injuries. I've been on teams before where, you don't have a lot of injuries, and those first guys, especially at the last school, those first guys are playing the majority of the game. It's hard for those next 30 guys below to get excited about coming out to practice and doing stuff when you're probably not going to get a chance to play. So I definitely think that, it's added to those guys because they know that they got to be ready, and they've seen other guys come up and have a chance. And in the long run, it's isn't fun going through right now. But again, the silver lining in it is by the end of the year, we're going to have a lot more guys that have started in games and played meaningful snaps in games for our overall roster. We only have maybe 10 or 11 seniors total. So I think for the long run, this is a good experience for them, but it's not a lot of fun going through it at the time.
Houston picked to win the league, but maybe underachieving just a little bit record-wise so far. I know they've had some tough games with Kansas being as good as they've been, Texas Tech. Still a lot to play for that team. Could be a 9-3 team if they win out. Just how much do you feel that they're going to come out with a point of emphasis to bounce back and play strong?
I think there's a lot of teams in our league and all over the country right now, and in the NFL right now, that we're picked to have whatever kind of seasons, and maybe to this point it hasn't happened that way, and you're going to see which ones are going to be able to really finish strong and which ones can't kind of get out of that rut, right? And all I can do is go back and watch. You can look at a record and very similar to our season, somebody from the outside could look at a record and you could make a judgment on the season or how the teams play. But if you follow it and watch every game and watch all the plays and keep up with it, it may not make you feel better, but you can see some positives in there. When I turn on the video for Houston, I see that team each and every week. I see that team that was picked to win our league. And again, you go back to some of those games, it's a couple points, a couple plays here and there, and they've had a lot of those games, maybe 3 overtime games already, and they've won their share, and they've lost a couple that were right there at the end too. So overall, very talented. Again, it starts with their quarterback, and the guy's played a bunch of ball, and really good player. He knows their system inside and out, and they're explosive. They've got incredible skill guys. But defensively, the biggest thing that jumps out is, they're very disruptive up front. I think even some of the really good teams that have played them this year have struggled blocking them up front, and you got to be really, really careful with what you're asking your offense to do as far as holding up, how long, and protection, and so I think that's kind of that they've created a lot of plays on defense with their front four.
Speaking of your front four, Jason Vaughn has been really productive so far. 5 sacks. He's on pace to do something a USF defensive lineman hasn't done in 5-6 years. 3rd highest graded player on PFF. Just what we've seen out of him.
Yeah, he's a guy that kind of a little slower getting going, and maybe we didn't play him as much as we probably should have a little bit early, and he got some opportunity, and man, he made the most of it. The thing I appreciate about him is, he's worked every day. He shows up, he puts in the work, and sometimes if you go out and you're not the starter that week or whatever, it's easy to kind of get disappointed and just kind of drift off. And he's one of those guys that has been preparing for his opportunity. And then when his opportunity came, he's made the most of it. And then as a coach, when you see that, then you reward that, right? And so I'm really pleased with how he's played. And I think that's, one of the things as we're looking for improvement areas that we've made some improvement this year. I definitely think our sacks and TFLs have greatly increased from where they were a year ago. And that group has worked extremely hard. Obviously, we're trying to do some things up front to give them some chances, but they got to be the ones to go out and make those plays. And Jason's been a big part of that, and I'm expecting him to have a great finish to the season these last 5 games.
Jeff, the way the schedule broke, it's almost like right in the middle of your games with your open date. I know you can't make the first 7 games disappear, but is this kind of almost like a turn the page, like a second opening game kind of a thing here you've got?
Yeah, I think anytime that you haven't turned the corner yet, you can find some separation. You want to use that as kind of a turn the page kind of moment. And we've talked about that. I talked about it after 6 games, kind of use the middle of the season. We played 6, we got 6 to go, but really the open week, you have a chance really to kind of, you can gain a little perspective, you can gain a little bit of knowledge of what's going on and what you need to do, and really everybody kind of take a deep dive inside on how we all need to improve individually, coaches and players, and then how do we bring that back collectively to get to where we want to go, and also keep perspective on the reality of what's happened, where we are, why we're here, and what we're going to have to do to get there, and kind of block out maybe the noise and all that happens whenever you're having a difficult year, and really just kind of see, hey, we have an opportunity, and the only people that can change it are the people in our team room and in our locker room. And the only way we're going to be able to do it is we all take pride in improving. A couple of these plays here and there is really the difference of where we need to go. And then all of a sudden you get that win, and there's energy and momentum and excitement that come from that too. And so, yeah, there's no doubt our guys know we got 5 games to go. We've only got maybe 32 days left in the season. That's all we're guaranteed. And so we're not going to count the days. We need to make each day count, right? And so that's kind of the mentality that our guys have right now.
The bye week, Jeff, allow a couple guys to heal up till
the
Houston game?
Yeah, I do believe so. We have more guys, of the guys that were banged up, more of them are back practicing. It was able to kind of do 2 things. Number one, some of the guys that were playing, which we had a lot of guys that were playing not quite 100%. It gave us a chance to kind of pick and choose how much they did during that bye week, so we could take advantage of that and get them to being closer to 100%. And then the guys that haven't been able to get in, now they were able to practice and do some things. So we have more guys practicing, and still don't know. We still have a few more days to go, but I'm hopeful that we'll be able to get a few of those guys back this week. All right, thank you. Appreciate it.